New year, new metal.
One more year is one more year that everyone's closer to death.
These are my favorite metal albums of January, and we're starting with Nothingness with Supraliminal. Kicking off 2023 death metal with a bang thanks to this Minneapolis band. This is some brutal HM2-driven goodness recommended for fans of Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, and Immolation. Expect everything from blackened atmospheres to grindy rippers. Solid pacing too, with some doomier moments to break up the blast beats, but never long enough to lose the momentum, and regardless of whether it's full speed ahead or a slower groove, expect it to be all as heavy as shit.
You had me at HM2.
Next up is Imperium Dekadenz with Into Sorrow Evermore. The sound of this atmospheric black metal band is one of deeply absorbing introspection. It washes over you in waves of melancholy, but with glimmers of light always just out of reach, with harrowing, reverb-soaked snarls like the voice of death itself creeping in the shadows. Little touches like the lonely piano opening of Aurora only further expand on the overwhelming sense of grief and sorrow. It's another example of a band on the doomier side of the spectrum that manages to keep me engaged thanks to stellar songwriting and spellbinding production. Then we have Seven Doors with Feast of the Repulsive Dead. And some more raunchy, old-school-minded death metal for you this month. Seven Doors is a one-man horror-themed project named after the hotel in Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. You're already getting new Obituary this month. You can check out my tier list for that, but this should satisfy a little bit more of that Cannibal Corpse vibe. And in addition to the chugging riffs and head-bobbing pace, I love the explosions of reverb-soaked guitar leads to further sell the spooky cemetery vibes. I mean, really, with track names like the Vorbid Mortician, the Hack Shack, and Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, you should already have a pretty good idea of what to expect from this one.
They're coming up. Chud.
Next up is Anzillu with Ex Nihilo. After digging in with that ranking last year, I'm making an effort to pay a lot more attention to thrash metal this year, and Anzillu is a great way to kick off the genre in 2023. Chuggy hooks, shredding solos, and vocals that feel like a cross between Steve Souza and Thomas Lindberg make quite the impression. I also love how this treads the line between traditional thrash and some pretty crushing Lamb of God-esque groove on tracks like Mental Graveyard. As one point of mild criticism, I do think that Teemu could vary up his vocals a bit more as they can get a little grating after a while, but other than that, this was a really solid thrasher. Then we have Thy Darkened Shade with Liber, Lvcifer 2, Mahapralaya. From the very dark hymn-like opening of Luciftias, Thy Darkened Shade's intention should be clear. This is the type of album that in the 80s would have had Tipper Gore histrionically screaming,
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
In a word, Satan. Massive atmosphere with this one, fitting to the epic imagery of the cover art. To be perfectly honest, I'm kind of over the more edgelord shock value side of satanic black metal these days, but Thy Darkened Shade take what feels like more of a thoughtful approach that goes beyond just upside down crosses and goat's blood.
Worthless little insect. We are lords of chaos. Destroyer of worlds.
Then we have Dryad with the Abyssal Plane. Dryad is like a demented union of Lord Mantis, Abzu, Emperor, and old school death metal. So much so that it's difficult to cleanly place it in any of these genres represented within its dark cacophony. Snarly, syncopated vocals, crusty beats, and menacing guitars bulldoze over the listener with raw production like coarse sandpaper. This overall abrasive approach is also broken up by a few surprise injections of eerie synth instrumentals, which while brief, provide an important counterbalance that prevents the listener from ever fully adapting to the maelstrom. Next up we have Unaligned with Inner Dimensions. Now, technically, this originally released in 2022, but I missed it back then, and this month marks the physical release of this absolute work of destruction, mixing the likes of Surreption with the infectious melody of the Black Dahlia murder on tracks like Of Chaos. And Canopsia is another standout with its perfect harnessing of the vocals alongside a more grandiose, symphonically tinged composition akin to Shadow of Intent. I'm also naming Transient Gate my first big gym banger of 2023 with its brain-melting hooks and tons of killer soloing. From the insane drumming to the gnarly bass work, this album will mess you up.
I must break you.
Then we have Windchimes with Frantically Grasping at Intangible Hands. This band is difficult to nail down genre-wise, but they describe themselves as an enticing blend of black metal, metalcore, and post-hardcore. I'd say file them most closely alongside groups like Portrayal of Guilt. Nothing New even gets downright experimental, focusing on ambience and a pretty disturbing spoken word performance, and tracks tend to stick to a sludgier pace, constantly crafting this overwhelming sense of futility and despair that's like clinical depression in pure sonic form. Then we have Darko with Dethmask Part 2. So this one also technically came out the last day of December, but I'll use any excuse I can to talk about one of the best deathcore bands in the game right now. Coming hot off of Oni just a couple months back, this duo seemingly never sleeps and somehow continues to drop top quality bangers despite the continuous output. Punchy, rhythmic guitars are offset by spooky backing effects and more of the most aggressive vocals you can find. Tom kills it once again with every possible variety of scream, while Josh Miller absolutely tears it up on the kit. Personally, I'm partial to Hybrid Process and the schizoid adrenaline of Future Doom. Before we get to my favorite album of the month, I know quite a few of you were hyped for Ahab and Katatonia, and given that I wasn't in love with those albums personally, I thought I'd call in some friends who did.
Thanks so much, Trenches, for inviting us onto your channel. We love Doom on FORGEMASTER Metal Reviews, so that's why we're going to do Katatonia and Ahab.
Yeah, this is one of our favorite genres. Really, though, let's start with one of our absolute favorite bands ever, dude, Katatonia. What did you think of Sky Void of Stars?
I loved this record, adored it actually, and I feel like it will probably end up on our album of the year list. For such a doomy band, they somehow inserted some upbeat and I'll kind of say borderline fun, dark progressive rock vibes in their track listing. What did you think?
Yeah, man, I've already spun this one a few times outside of just the promo, and a few songs on here that I just really connect with. Man, I do love that like upbeat, progressive, rocky thing. I think that when you have a long and storied career like this band, you're not gonna click with every one of their records, but this one came out and I was like, oh, it was like a sigh of relief, you know, kind of like this is what I've been anticipating.
My sky was full of stars, not void of them after I heard this. After my disappointment with the Fall of Hearts and City Burials, I think it's great to hear the band firing on all gloomy cylinders again and delivering a masterwork of what they do best. best.
Definitely, dude. Definitely, like you said, an album of the year contender for sure, and one of their better records.
If you had a hard time connecting with the last couple of records, this one will help you fall in love again. I have to admit, it kind of took me a long time for my brain to get wrapped around the 66 minutes of emotionally devastating doom that Ahab crafted here. It really helped me to imagine being lost at sea, chained at the bottom of the ocean, and just watching the horrors of the depths unfold in front of my eyes. That definitely helped me connect with it.
Yeah, dude. This is one of those bands that has been around for a long time, and I just never found the album that was like, holy shit, like this is the one. I think this is finally it for me, at least. And you can see why with the Coral Tombs. I think that this is a very well-focused, good put together album that incorporates things like funeral doom, melodic doom, folk, and like neo-folk with the chants and the sea shanty kind of vibes and stuff like that. There is quite a bit of diversity on this record, which lends itself to support that 66-minute long runtime. I'm not really sure I would replay this album front to back, but I think that there are definitely a couple 2023 essential listening songs on here, especially in the Doom category.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is one of Ahab's strongest records by far. This is an album that you want to put on if you want a depressing aquatic Doom experience that just bloats your body with muddy waters. It's tremendously moody, captivating, but you will need a night cleared to sit and enjoy this record and get your mind around it. If you like your Doom epic and loaded with narrative, you cannot go wrong with this album. Definitely worth your time. Thanks so much for having us on, Trenches. If you like more Doom, if you like black metal, we love Trenches. He's one of the best creators on YouTube by far.
Go with the gods, Forge Mates. The Coral Tombs awaits.
And then my favorite metal album of the month goes to Bragging Rights, The Dour. I used to listen to a lot of this huge bellowing sludge back in 2015 to like 2018, but for some reason, not much since then has really turned my head. But Bragging Rights are helping to reignite that fire in a big way, with the opening title track like pure bile mixed with mournful atmosphere and a little Gojira in the guitars. Meanwhile, Nobody's Coming For You throws in a riff straight out of early Deftones on top of layers and layers of spiraling misery. Just absolutely crushing stuff that is as heavy as it is emotionally resonant. Another new band to add to your list of up-and-comers. Y'all check out this video for my ranking of Obituary, or this playlist if you've missed my best metal albums of 2022, and let me know down in the comments what were your favorite metal albums this month. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.